Greeting members, I'm Valentine and I'm going to take you through China and Africa relations economically, politically, and strategically. Let's hear the introduction. Africa occupies an increasingly important position in global politics, with 54 sovereign states. The continent holds a significant voting power in international institutions such as the United Nations. Africa is rich in natural resources. It has a rapidly growing population. It's also strategically located along a major global trade routes. These factors make Africa a key arena for the global power competition. Major powers include China, the United States, and the European Union actively engage with Africa to secure economic partnerships, political alliances, and strategic influence. The historical background of China and Africa relations. China's relationship with Africa dates back to the 1950s and 1960s when it supported African liberation movements during the anti-colonial struggle. During the Cold War, China positioned itself as a partner of developing countries. In 2000, cooperation became institutionalized through the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, which created a formal platform for economic and diplomatic engagement. Since then, relations have shifted from ideological solidarity to pragmatic economic and strategic cooperation. Let's hear the theoretical framework in international relations. China-Africa relations can be analyzed using the key theories, which is realism. China seeks to explain its power, secure access to resources, and increase geopolitical influence. Liberalism, cooperation through trade, institutions, and mutual development benefits both sides. Dependency theory, Africa may remain dependent by exporting raw materials and relying on foreign loans. These theories help us to understand both the positive opportunities and structural risk involved in the relationship. The economic relations, trade partners. China has become Africa's largest trading partner. African countries export oil, minerals, and agricultural products to China, while importing manufactured goods, electronics, and machinery. Although trade volumes have increased significantly, the structure of trade reflects the imbalance. Africa largely exports low raw value materials while importing high value finished products. This trade pattern may limit Africa's industrial development and reinforce structural dependency in the global economy. Investment and infrastructure development. China heavily involved in infrastructure development across Africa. Major railway projects in Kenya and Ethiopia has been improved by transportation networks and regional trade connectivity. Chinese companies also construct roads, ports, airports, and energy projects across the continent. Infrastructure development supports economic growth and regional integration. However, most projects are financed through loans and Chinese banks, increasing Africa debt's burden. Let's see the Belt and Road Initiative (BRI). Many African countries participate in the Belt and Road Initiatives, China's global infrastructure and connectivity strategy. The BRI aims to enhance trade routes linking Asia, Africa, and Europe. In Africa, it focuses on ports, railways, highways, and industrial zones. While BRI projects improve connectivity and economic opportunities, its also concerns with the remain about the debt sustainability, transparency, and long-term control over strategic assets. The political relations and diplomacy. China promotes a policy of non-interference in domestic affairs, which contrasts with the Western approaches that often attach government conditions to aid. This policy appeals to many African governments. In return, Africa states frequently support China positions in international organizations. The diplomatic cooperation strengthens China's global standing while giving African countries an alternative partner in global politics. Let's see the Africa's agency and the role of African Union. Africa is not merely a passive recipients of Chinese influence. Through institutions like the African Union, African states coordinate regional policies and collect the bargaining strategies. Many African governments strategically engage in China to secure infrastructure and development benefits. This demonstrates Africa's agency in international relations, although negotiating power varies among countries. The strategic and security dimensions. Africa holds strategic importance due to its location along the vital maritime trade routes. China established the first overseas military base in Djibouti to support anti-piracy missions and project shipping lanes. China also participates in the UN peacekeeping missions in Africa. These actions demonstrate that the relationship extends beyond economic to include security and military cooperation. Let's see the natural resources and geopolitical interest. African natural resources are central into China's industrial growth. China imports oil from Angola and sources cobalt from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is essential for the battery production and renewable energy technologies. Control and access to these critical resources enhance China's global economic competitiveness and strategic security. The opportunities and economic development and industrialization. China-Africa cooperation has contributed to infrastructure modernization, job creation, and technology transfer. Industrial parks and special economic zones encourage manufacturing and economic diversification. For many African states, China provides an opportunity to accelerate development without a strict political condition. This can strengthen Africa integration into global markets. Let's see the dependency, debt, and financial risk. Some African countries face rising debt levels linked to infrastructure borrowing. For example, Zambia experienced debt distress party associated with external loans. Critics argue that heavy reliance on Chinese financing may reduce policy independence. Debt restructuring negotiation highlighting the importance of the sustainable borrowing practices. The global power competition in Africa. Africa has become a key arena for global competition between China and Western powers. The United States and European Union has increased diplomatic and economic engagement in response to China's growing presence. The multipolar environment provides African countries with the other alternative partnership, but also it requires careful diplomatic balancing to avoid overdependence on any single power. There is soft power and cultural influence, where China expands its influence through educational scholarships, cultural exchange, and the media cooperation. Chinese language institutes and training programs increase cultural connections. These power initiatives strengthen diplomatic relations and shape perception of China among African elites and youth. Let's see the future prospects of China's Africa relations. Future cooperation may shift towards green energy, digital infrastructure, and industrial partnerships. Africa's growing population and market size making it strategically important for China's long-term plan. However, transparency, debt sustainability, and stronger African institutions will determine whether the relationship evolves into a more balanced partnership. Conclusion. From an international relationship perspective, China-Africa relations represent both opportunity and dependency. Economically, they promote infrastructure and trade growth. Politically and strategically, they reshape global power dynamics. However, structural trade imbalances and rising debt risk remain significant challenges. The future of this rice relationship will depend largely on Africa's strategic choices, governance capacity, a negotiation thread in the global system. Thank you for listening for my presentation.